Welcome, everyone, to Conversation Café. I am its host and founder, Dr. Gauthier-Zayas. My pronouns are he, him, and elle, and we want to welcome you to this conversation as this podcast is dedicated to fostering understanding, building connections, and really inspiring action through compelling conversations that we create a space to explore topics such as transformational leadership, systemic equity and inclusion, guided by our guests' lived and professional experiences. Topics on Conversation Cafe will be anchored in transformational leadership, systemic equity, and community engagement through restorative justice. Some discussions may be challenging and even uncomfortable, but they're essential for growth. So, by sharing firsthand stories, we counter misinformation and harmful narratives, really shedding light on the impact of intolerance and inequity. These conversations highlight the policies and behaviors that marginalize communities while emphasizing the resilience and insights of those most affected. At Conversation Cafe, we're your allies in understanding and embracing diversity. Together, we'll explore how differences shape our workplaces, communities, and places of worship, presenting opportunities for learning and growth among each other. Science and inaction only perpetuate harm. This is our chance to create inclusive environments that uplift everyone. Our space is being held to equip you with the knowledge, evidence, and strategies to inform how you might become a more present ally in the walk towards equality by creating systemic equity infrastructure that sustains meaningful change and impact for all. We focus on empowering listeners with actionable insights to create brave spaces where equity and inclusion thrive. Join us as we amplify voices, share transformative stories, and navigate the complexities of diversity, equity, and social justice. So sit back, listen, and let the conversations inspire you to become a more force for positive change. Again, welcome to the Conversation Cafe, where every story matters and every voice can spark transformation. Welcome to today's episode, which features speaker, author, identity-led coach Maverick, Bukie Adebola-Ezeh. She's a powerhouse whose leadership was forged in the most unlikely of places, in the hospital corridors. So while she is a sought-after speaker and a seasoned sales expert, Bukie's lived experience is defined by a relentless dual reality. She is the mother of two daughters, one a transplant survivor, and the other navigating a constant cycle of hospital care every 5 weeks. And it's within these Goliaths that she discovered her identity. A self confessed maverick, Buki refuses to separate her professional success from her personal humanity. She believes that our challenges don't happen to us, they choose us because we possess the unique spirit to turn them into a mission. Her work as a coach and author is dedicated to helping individuals peel back their own layers of struggle to find their vision through tears. Whether she is commanding a stage or advocating on the medical front lines, Buki is proof that adversity isn't an obstacle to leadership, it's actually the design floor for it. She brings an unstoppable energy to every conversation, reminding us that on the other side of our hardest battles, there is always a new possibility waiting to be built. Today's conversation challenges the idea that leadership is built only in boardrooms. Our guest, Bukie Adebola-Ezeh, reminds us that sometimes leadership is forged in the most personal and most difficult spaces, and that identity isn't something we bring to leadership. It's actually something leaderships reveal. Today's conversation challenges the idea that leadership is built only in boardrooms. Our guest, Bukie Adebola-Ezeh, reminds us that sometimes leadership is forged in the most personal, most difficult spaces, and that identity isn't something we bring to leadership. It's something leadership reveals. So without further ado, I want to welcome my wonderful guest, Bukie Adebola-Ezeh. Bukie, welcome very much.
Thank you so much for having me. Oh my goodness, it's such an honor and a privilege to be here. I'm super excited. I can't wait for what we're about to do here to actually impact all the people and, change people's lives. So I'm just excited to be here. So let's dig into this.
All right, let's jump right in. So I always let our listeners know that when I, bring in guests, I try to
Yeah.
create themes, right? So for today, our themes are going to really lie in identity and origin. It's going to lie in adversity as design. It's going to be in leadership and practice. And of course, there's always opportunities to reflect and expand. So without further ado, I would love to kind of pick your brain for the first question I have, and then we could take it from there. You ready for it?
Yes, yes.
All right. So the question I have for you, Bukie, is you describe your leadership as forged in hospital corridors, right? Can you
Yes.
walk us through that moment when survival really began to shift into identity?
Thank you so much. So here's the thing. My identity and leadership wasn't something that was just forged once. It was something that was gradual. It was a repeated moments where life kind of forced me into discovering who I am. So a few years back, now my daughter is 22, but my daughter was diagnosed with sickle cell, and that meant that I had to go into hospital every now and then.
Oh, wow.
Saying my daughter too, I have two daughters with sickle cell, and so life forged me into this, isn't it? That's what we're talking about. And sometimes people think you're opening to life, it's forged in your comfort zone. But no, mine was at the point where it was my daughter's third, I think it was third stroke, and she just had two brain surgeries. And I
Mm,
was in that corridor watching her on the machine. And
mhm.
I was thinking, I've been fighting for my daughter to stay alive. I've been going in and out of hospital. And at this point, we're already into getting blood transfusion every couple of weeks. So that's why I said mine wasn't just one dramatic moment. It
Right,
was me being forged out in a lot of pressure, layers of pressure, because
right,
standing there at that point, I was thinking, my goodness, it's not just my daughter that is on life support. My identity was,
correct.
because leadership became something that was personal to me. And that point, my leadership wasn't about me being a CEO. My leadership wasn't about me just being out there in the cover of a magazine or anything. My leadership was trying to be in that room and giving my daughter the strength that she needs to become who she was designed to. She's fighting for her life, and here I am, I'm fighting for my own identity. So, who I'm becoming through this was a question I was asking myself on that corridor, and just watching the machine go. You know how machines go beep, 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 and
Yes,
my own
yes.
identity is also on beep, 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 beep. So,
Yeah, no,
so,
I get it.
even though looking back now, I have a system that I train people with. It's called the IRISE system, which we'll talk about as we go on today. But I
Right,
realized that I was already living it.
correct.
Okay, at that point.
You already were doing it without a title, and you just were doing it.
Exactly,
I
exactly.
understand.
So, being a mom, trying to build your own company, trying to be a wife, trying to answer to your external family. I have a
Yes.
dad and a mom who calls me for stuff. So it was just the combination of so many things that was happening in my life. But the realization was in that corridor going, okay, I can no longer, be this, all the things I'm wearing. This is Bukie and this is the real. So the corridor just for me wasn't just a test, it was introducing me to me.
Yeah, you bring up a very valid point, right? Because I think that in whether you're in corporate America or nonprofit, one of the things that sometimes leaders have debates with, right, is, the authenticity thing, right? So when we talk about authenticity, sometimes, depending on the space, it gives you permission to do so. But yet sometimes even those of us who understand that, sometimes there are spaces that still restrict us from truly showing up, because I think that
Mm,
sometimes you can't help but bring in or kind of be impacted or affected by our personal matters. In your case, your children were sick, almost on, death's bed. So you had to deal with that on top of, like you said, all these layers of your identity. You're the mom, you're the CEO, you're the community member, you're the parishioner, fill in the blank, right? So I think for me, sometimes leaders struggle with bringing that into work to demonstrate
mm,
authenticity, but without interfering with the outcome, so to speak. So the question that I have for you is that many leaders, they compartmentalize
Mm.
person hardships. What made you reject that? Right? Because it sounds like you were like, yep, I had to worry about all these compartments. And that you got to a point where you're like, you know what? I can't have rooms. I need a whole house. Can you break that
Absolutely.
down for us?
Okay, so when we talk about, I like what you said about, the corporate America. It's not just corporate America alone, it's corporate UK, corporate Africa, corporate everywhere, right? And there's this notion that as a corporate human being, let me put it that way, the world
Right.
expects you to dress like this, talk like this, walk like this. So there's an expectation. Okay. And
Mhm.
as a parent also, there's an expectation. So many of us over time, we wear something I call the masks. Okay.
Yes.
So you wear the mask of a mom. And so when you leave the house, you put the mask down, isn't it? Then you're going into the
Mhm.
office, you wear the mask of the CEO. Okay. And in the corporate world, you wear the mask of the corporate world, isn't it?
Correct.
And
Mhm.
so, but what human beings don't understand it, when we begin to separate who we are into different identities as leaders, we are actually wearing masks. So pain will affect your communication, your decision, your energy, your confidence. So pretending to be otherwise and creating this mask for different part of your life, let me put it this way. In the magazine that came out a few days ago, in the Female
Mhm.
CEO feature, I want we're talking, one thing I spoke about was how adversity deepened my leadership rather than disqualify me. So
Yes.
when we are talking about us as corporate human beings, you have to remember that those layers of your life is actually what makes you who you are. And understanding that, so instead of thinking, I've got to be a mom from 5 p.m. to 10 p.m. when my kids go to bed, and then I've got to be a CEO from night. Some people say I wake up before 5 a.m., right? And they're doing all that they need to do before 5 a.m. And so, yeah, before the kids. And also, there are so many layers to what people give us out there. Let me say that there are, if you want ideas on who you should be or what mask you should wear, there are so many of that on social media. There are so
Mhm.
many of that on YouTube. There are so many last classes that people pick, isn't there? But here's the thing, that corridor introduced me to who Bukie really is. And that's why when I introduce myself, I don't say my name is Bukie. I will say
Mhm.
I am Bukie
Oh, I
because
like that.
my mask cracked.
Correct.
And until you stop compartmentalizing your life and allow your mask to really crack and you face the real you, look at the real you in the mirror and you understand that your pain, the leaders you trust yourself to be is usually the one that have integrated your humanity, not hide it. Not the one that's coming in the suit and going, I'm looking great, I'm fine, try me out on social media, I'm looking
Yes.
amazing. But the one that goes, this is me, and I've been carrying so much weight and pain and facing my humanity, only then can we stop living in different rooms, opening different doors of your life
Right.
every day within 1 hour to another. So I rejected that because I stopped asking, how do I hide my humanity? I started asking, how do I lead through my integrity? So when we are talking about authenticity, and I know it's a
Yes.
word that a lot of people throw everywhere. Oh, you've got
Mhm.
to be authentic. You've got to be authentic. But even with those who are telling you you've got to be authentic, they are just showing the part of the authenticity they want you to see.
Right. And you remind me that when
Yeah.
we accommodate for others, we
Yes.
sacrifice ourselves. And I think that for me, that's very similar to code switching. So
Yes.
we come into a
Yes.
space, and because someone along time, father time, mother time, somewhere along the timeline, somebody said, this is how we define X.
Mm.
And the rest of us said, okay,
Mm-hmm.
but at what cost, right? So I think that's a really interesting point, and you remind me of that. It's very, very
Yes.
similar. So I
Yes.
want to thank you for that because it's true. Authenticity, you can only be as authentic as what the environment allows you to be. And if no one understands why, right? And is not allowed to ask permission to
Mm.
ask why, not to push back on authority, but to really, I love what I usually say is help me understand. That's my favorite line. It
Mm-hmm.
really is about, I'm not pushing back to defy. I'm pushing back to really understand because something's not clicking for me.
Asking
Right?
questions. That's what you're
Correct.
saying. And,
Correct.
one of my mentors will say that the quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask. I'm going to say
Amen.
that again very slowly. The
Yes.
quality of your life is determined by the quality of questions that you ask.
Very true.
So when the corporate world says, come on like this, have you actually ever sat down and asked why?
Yes.
When the world asks you to show up like this, have you ever asked, why do I need to show up like that? Why
Right.
can't I just embrace my humanity and
Right.
live with my own integrity? And
Correct.
that for me was what made me be like, okay, I'm rejecting all this. I'm just going to show up
Right.
as Bukie. Not Mrs., not Miss, not mother, not CEO, but just Bukie.
Rightfully so. And you've
Yeah.
earned that, and you will continue to earn that as you move forward. So I commend you for that, because sometimes spaces try to remind us that we shouldn't ask questions. But I'm always been a curious person, and I always kind of think, well, we are told in order to get better at something, we have to identify what is that something first.
Mm,
And then we have to call it what it is. We have to
mm,
understand it. And then we have to unpack it in a way to really help us understand how it impacts not just some of us, but all of us. So for me, that's really important. So I commend you for that, because, again, sometimes the spaces, especially for BIPOC professionals,
mm,
regardless of where, across the globe,
mm,
this isn't just an American issue or
mm-mm.
English issue, right? Or British issue. This is across the globe. Just turn on the TV and you can see it in full display, or, hop online, or whatever the case may be. I
Yeah.
think for me, when we start talking about adversity, right, as a design,
Mm,
you have said that the challenges choose us, right? You made that comment before. Like, how, in your opinion, how should leaders reinterpret
mm.
adversity through that lens without really minimizing pain? Because we're so, not all of us, but some of us are so adverse avoidance. Some of us
Yes.
don't like
Yeah, yeah,
conflict.
yeah, yeah,
But again, if we want to get better at something, we have to call it what it is, understand
yeah,
why.
yeah,
Again, this is my lens. What do you
yeah.
think about that? What is your opinion on that?
Thank you so much. Okay, so here's what I'm going to say here. Pain should never be romanticized,
Amen.
one, but pain can still carry purpose. Okay.
Correct.
And so let me introduce you to something I call the ARISE system. I'm just going to give you the first three. Okay.
Of course.
So IRISE, IRISE, identity, reframe. It's my number two thing. So
Mhm.
pain becomes a formation. Pain becomes the foundation to why you're doing what you're doing. Because I say that the best teachers are those who have been through something, not just read it
Yes.
in a textbook.
Amen.
And also, the other I is integrate. Stop separating humanity from leadership. So, saying that though, here's the thing. You have to acknowledge your pain. And I
Mhm.
said that, our challenges chose us. And I'm a Christian, by the way. I've got
Uh,
Christian Foundation. And there's this saying that will say that God's never going to give you more than you can carry. And I
Yes.
wake up every morning and I say to my children, thank you for picking me. Why? Because if I didn't go through all that I went through, I won't be having this conversation with you today. I've actually been on a podcast before where the lady was saying, if I look back at my life, is there anything that I'm going to, take away from it? And I said to her, if I change anything in my past, we would not be having this conversation. I would not be
Right.
here. So adversity is not always punishment. Sometimes it's to introduce you to you. And there's a saying in my language. I'm originally from Nigeria. My mother would
Yes.
say,
Say it
when
in your
we
language, please. Share it and then translate it for us, because I love hearing different languages. Because why not? So please feel free. Seriously, go jump
My
in.
mother would say, Taban sunkún and riran. What does that mean? It means that while we are crying, we can still see visions. So sometimes pressure reveals our capacity. So as leader, hardship actually exposes your value. It exposes your boundaries. It exposes your priorities.
Right.
Adversity can become your identity formation. And
Right.
that's how I got here. Because by the way, when I say, if you have read that magazine article,
Mhm.
I talked about one of the things that the lady asked me was, what's the bravest thing I've ever done?
Right.
And I said, it's not going to be the general answer that people would expect. The bravest thing I've ever done was me getting up after having 3 stillbirths to come back to have 4 children. I had lost a son. I
Right.
lost a set of twins. That
Wow.
was enough for any woman to go, that's it, I'm done. I'm not having any more children. But I'm like, no, bring it on. This is my mission. And this is why. So some experiences break your old identity so that it can reveal who you really are, so that you can emerge as the person that you're designed to be. So leaders often try to get back and say, oh, I'm bouncing back, and we use all that word. No, when it comes to hardship, you are not bouncing back. You're
Right.
meeting the real, authentic identity that is you. So every time that we embrace our challenges and we cry through them, it allowed us to see the purpose for what we're there. So I'm having this conversation with you today because I embraced my challenges.
Yes.
I didn't say that's the reason why I need to go and hide. I didn't say I'm a mother of 4 and I've got 2 children with special needs. It's enough reason for me not to work and do nothing. I'm like, no, there's a purpose to my life. And these children picked me because they believe I'm the best mother in the world to look after them the way they should be raised. So that's what I'm going to say about that. Really embracing while you're crying, try and see the vision. There is something in your challenges that is going to make you who you really are supposed to be.
Okay. All right, Bukie. That makes 100% sense to me. And I definitely want to just give you the opportunity, right? So you started mentioning the I Rise. Can you just share with the audience what is the whole acronym? And say I Rise is what for each letter, so that way the audience can hear it.
Okay, so
Clearly,
it's
loud and clear.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So
Of course.
I Rise is identity, reframe, integrate, okay, and then survey your life. What needs to change? What do you need to let go? So when I talk about identity as the I, is adversity reveals identity.
Yes.
Reframe, pain becomes formation.
Yes.
And integrate, stop separating humanity from leadership. And then S, survey your life. What do I need to hold on to? What do I need to let go? And then E means emerge. So you come out as a new you. So you're not I don't want to say new. You come out as a person that you're designed to be. You're already there on your inside. But because you're crying and allowing your challenges not to reveal that person to you, is to sitting down and going, I can do something, help, I'm here. And so when we allow ourselves to come out and emerge, guess what? We're like a new flower. We're like a new identity. We're no longer submerged. Yes.
Yes. It's a new season. Correct.
Yes.
But guess what? A new season will always come, regardless if you're ready for it.
Of course.
Regardless if you're ready for it, it's coming and it's not stopping. So we either
So you're letting go your old identity by embracing the I Rise system and emerging as a real authentic identity that is you.
Yeah. I really appreciate you, again, breaking it down. That's why I wanted to make sure. I'm like, let's make sure that the audience hears that, because, you know, we get caught up in acronym rabbit holes. Right? But I really want people to understand, like, why. I mean, even if that wasn't an acronym for anything, think about how powerful I Rise, what that stands for, without even going into acronyms, right? Yeah. So I commend you for that, and I think it's brilliant. So thank you for
and also,
sharing
let me just
that
add
piece
this
of
to
wisdom.
This path. Yes, let me just share this part to that. You see, when I was at that hospital corridor, to be vulnerable here, I was sitting on the floor.
Yes.
That's how broken down I was broken. And so standing up from there was me I rising, because I was like, okay, Bukie, this is it. This is my life, and it's not going to change anytime soon. This is my challenges, and it's not going to change anytime soon. My children are expecting me to be strong for them. That's my reality. Okay. Right. And you know, sometimes they say to us, life has rock bottom, but they forget to tell you that even rock bottom has basement.
That's
and sometimes we have to pass rock bottom to basements in order for us to arise. Correct. So sitting down there, I was reframing. So when doctors were telling me all the things that was wrong, I was saying to them, don't say it in front of my daughter, because I don't want you to give her that negativity. Okay. Right. Anything that you've got to tell us, not in front of my kids.
Right.
Okay. And so when they started telling me those things, I was reframing it. I was telling myself why she's going to live long. I was telling myself why the surgery was going to be possible, right? Because when the consultant said to me, once we do the surgery, your daughter may never walk for 6 months. Right. I kid you not. He told me that on a Thursday. Yeah. Wow. I reframed it. I began to confess. And you see, I'm going to say something here that it's not part of what I was going to say before today. There is power in what you think and what you
100%.
say. One of my old mentors will say that if you can hold it in your head, you can hold it in your hand. Bro Proctor says that. And here's the thing. I began to reframe the idea that my daughter's going to get up, she's going to walk. And so when the doctor told her that, guess what she said? The doctor was like, I'll see you on Monday, like I'll see you in your chair on Monday, hopefully. She went, I can do all things through Christ that strengthens me. She was 4. And so when the doctor came in on Monday, my God, my daughter kept trying throughout the weekend to get out of the wheelchair. When the doctor came out on Monday, I told her, Nessa, could you show this doctor what you've been doing all weekend? She got off the chair and moved her first step.
Right.
So when we reframe what we're going through, even though you're
Right.
going through it and you allow yourself to see vision, then you are able to survey your surroundings, survey your reality, tell yourself what your reality is, but don't stay there. And then get what?
Correct.
Just emerge from it. Don't drown. Don't allow the water drown you. Just get your head out. So that's what the I Rise was for me. And that's what I've been teaching that in all my programs.
Right. That's phenomenal. And I think that for me, what I'm hearing is that in your life, there are moments. There are moments that really define how you move forward, whether it's the best thing, the best thing you hear or the worst thing you hear. It's about the resiliency. It's about what anchors us to reminds us that when those times are really tough, that, it passes and we're going to do our best to get to the other side of it. Right. At least that's human nature. I like to think so. And I know that your daughter's experiences, for me, based on the article that I read, based on our conversations, that to me, it was a pivotal moment. That was a pivotal moment that you decided this is not going to define how we move forward. It'll inform us. Here are the pathways, and we have to decide what we're going to approach and how. Right? Because that's the medical field. They say, here are your options. We think about it. We talk about it with our loved ones, and then we decide, and then the work begins. You really shared about, being on the ground, right? Hearing the news. But can you help the listener understand how that very moment defined your ability to see not what was in front of you, but the possibility of what can be? Can you help us understand that?
Yes. So enduring hardship keeps you alive. However, extracting identity transforms you. So asking yourself those questions. So I was sitting on the floor and I'm asking myself, so what's my life going to be in the next 10 years? I've got all the degrees. I could get any job I want. But here's my reality. Nobody's going to employ me to go to work for 2 weeks and then be in the hospital for 3 months and then come back out again,
Correct.
And so what is this experience teaching me? What is this revealing about who Bukie is and about me being a mom and about my reality and what needs to change now? Those were the 3 questions I was asking myself. So I told myself, well, Bukie, nobody's going to employ you. So here's the thing. You're going to have to be your own CEO.
Yes.
Number 2, what is this revealing to me? It means that I have more strength than I thought that I do. So the difference between surviving and integrating, here's the thing. Pain by itself does not transform people. Awareness does. When you understand that, yes, this is my reality. This is what life looks like. How do I make this then work for me? So getting off the floor that day, I said to myself, you know what? I'm going to have to be my own CEO. I'm going to have to figure out what I need to do to be there for my children as a mom, but also to make my life a life of purpose. And since that day, Gerald, I have never gone to any hospital appointment without my laptop and my phone. I created my own company. So still using the Arise system, I went through my own suffering. I disconnected myself from the reality of what I was seeing and then began to transform my pain into something that I could share. And funny enough, when I first started this, and my old coaches would be like, Bukie, people need to hear your story. I used to say, no, my life is boring. But yeah, I am today, isn't it? I'll be like, no, my life is boring. And one of my coaches said, Bukie, if people could understand what you go through every day, and still
Beyond the
show
smiles.
your face, yes, it could help other people see clearer through their own pain and decide and ask those questions. What is this teaching me? Yeah.
Correct.
When in my book, I talked about something called the Good Girl Blueprint. What that
Hmm.
means is that from, like I said at the beginning, I'm African based. We have a plan. Your parents already have a plan of what your life should look like. And I
Yes.
walk that good girl blueprint. Go to school, get a degree,
Yeah.
get married,
Correct.
have children, and
Yeah.
be a grandmother. There's no other plan. And I
Correct.
walk that good girl blueprint. Oh, my adversity then revealed another part of my life that I didn't know that exists. It's sitting down there. And then I
Hmm.
asked myself, what needs to change? So
Correct.
here's the thing. I'm going to have to forget I've got 4+ degrees. Yeah. I'm going
Right.
to have to ask myself, what am I really good at that I could
Correct.
do? And what I'm good at is talking and helping people. And what do I need to change in my life to then make that new identity come out so that I can become it? So that's exactly what I did. So getting up from that floor, I told myself, when I get out of here, I'm going to
Mm.
go out there and teach other people how to use their pain as
Yes.
a pivot point to the person that they are. And that's where we're here.
Yeah. Yeah. I think for me, you just provided a tangible demonstration of what you mentioned earlier of vision through tears,
Yes.
right? You just backed up something that, was very near and dear to you because this is, goes back family, right? When family hands down these sayings, it takes on a different meaning. So I
Mm.
think for me, it's a beautiful thing for me to sit here and listen, and hopefully the listener out there to listen that, you know what? Adversity could be beneficial if you understand that getting through this is going to make me better at fill in the blank, whatever it is you're going through, because we are not the only ones that suffer individually. We've
Yes.
all had suffered at one point in our lives, whether it's, health of our own through our kids, whether our jobs that we've kept or been pushed out, whether we've, done community things or not, showed up in spaces that either welcome us or don't. So for me, I want to say thank you for demonstrating exactly what you were referring to. But some leaders don't. So for me, what do you think are leaders getting wrong, in your own opinion, about resiliency? Because that's what it boils down to. What we're talking about is resiliency, getting through it to make sure that we get on the other side of things, right? So
Yes.
can you unpack that a little bit for the audience?
Okay, so when we say what are leaders getting wrong,
Right. About
in my
resilience,
own,
very specifically. Yeah.
yes, for me, it's, when we talk about the translation of seeing vision through your tears,
Yes.
it can be a decision making, high pressure environment. And what I see that most leaders get wrong out there, it's I have to be perfect.
Yes. Yes.
My life has to be perfect. I have to look like I've got it all together. And that's why when we were discussing this at the very beginning, I said to you, I would rather want to share my vulnerability rather than just giving the right system and all the system I've used and be systematic about everything. As leaders, it's okay to be vulnerable within your tribe. I need to say that though. Not coming on social media and crying your heart out for everybody to see. So let me be very clear on that. Also, what leaders are getting wrong is I've got to got my life all at 100%. What we
Yeah.
forget is that Gerard's 100% today might not be his 100% on Friday. And
Yes.
that's okay. Your 100% on Monday might not be your 100% on a Sunday. And
Hmm.
that's okay. So leaders who are trying to control everything, that prayer that says, let me be able to, control what I can and what I can't to let go.
Yes.
I think
Yes. 100%.
every leader needs that right in front of their eyes. Because
They need it
my, yeah,
and they need to understand it. Because
yes,
reading it isn't the same as understanding it, because you can know when they understand it through what? Not
yeah,
their words,
hmm,
but their actions. So I
sure.
100% understand what you're saying and couldn't agree more.
What my daughter taught me though is that leadership
Right.
is not proven in control.
Amen.
It's revealed in responsibilities.
Hmm?
And I think that's what leaders get wrong. I've got to be in control. I've got to control all that's known. Check your
Mm-hmm.
responsibilities. Who am I when people are not seeing me? And that's leadership.
I think for me, the other piece to that, for what you're saying, is that sometimes I understand the pressures. Leadership can be a lonely title. So, and it's because sometimes you got to stand up when nobody else will. That's a leader. And when you don't stand up, be really clear, not just in your words, but also in
Mm,
your actions, so that
mm,
people can understand that they might not agree with this. They
Mm,
understand it, but it's okay to have differences, right? The power of differences, to your point, the adversity piece, the differences
mm,
piece, these
mm.
to me are gifts of
They are
improvement.
visions through tears.
Yes, if a big if, I'm going to say
Mhm,
big capital I and a capital F, as in Frank, if the leader to the point that we don't do enough is the
yeah.
vulnerability, right?
Mm,
Leadership and vulnerability for some of us is fantastic. For
mm.
others, it's really difficult. Right? So I think for me, that's also another layer to it, in my opinion.
It's a lesson I had to learn when they said, Bukie, why don't you become a coach? Why don't you teach
Mhm.
people this? And I'm like, no, my life is boring. No, I don't think I have anything to teach. I don't think I have anything to give anybody. And
Right.
my coach, every time he was adamant. I'm not a morning person, by the way,
Yeah.
but 6 o'clock in the morning,
Yes.
we are on a Zoom call trying to do training in the morning. And he
Of
was
course.
like, you're building resilience. But even in those Zoom meetings, I would have emergencies and I would run out to go and attend to my child and come back. And it was
Right.
one of those, it was like, Bukie, I've been watching you go back and forth. I'm like, yeah, my daughter is sick and she's been sick in the toilet. And she's like, and he said, but that didn't make you stop. That didn't give you an excuse to come out from this school. And I think that's
Right.
the thing, we will always have high pressure. But as leaders, there's something you said here that I want to try and just add a bit to.
Sure.
Leadership can be lonely.
Yes, it is. It can be. Doesn't have to be, but it can be.
But
Yes.
here's the thing though, when you are rising and you create your own tribe and you
Hmm.
go with your tribe, they say that the top is lonely is because you went there all by yourself all alone.
Correct. Correct.
If you have your own tribe and take them with you, then you
Correct.
are not lonely at the top. I think the mistake that humans make is I want to get there first and then I want to shut the door behind so nobody meets me. No,
Mm.
you've got to have your own tribe that goes with you. So like I said in the magazine as well, Bukie, how did you survive all this? I'm like, no, it took a village. I had a community. I had a community of sisters who won't give up on me, won't let me
Yes.
quit either. So when you as a leader is growing up, remember to have your tribe with you because you're going to
Yes.
need them one day. You're going to have to lean on them one day. That is the only way that we can make leadership not be lonely.
Yeah. I couldn't agree with you more. I think that, depending on the culture of the person, because I know my ancestors, long before, we became
Yeah.
property of Spain or America,
Mhm.
and that's Puerto Rico, we didn't have a hierarchy system. It was
Yes.
a
We had
village and
community.
we had
Exactly.
roles and we
Exactly.
did it together and people
Yes.
understood the roles, right?
Can we
It's
have
not
that back,
until
please?
correct, right, and I think that that's the piece, right? We didn't do it to outdo one another. We did it to
Yes.
uphold
Hold one another.
each other,
Yeah.
uphold
Yeah. Yeah.
everybody. So
Yeah.
I think it's really interesting. I think that's where a lot of the cultural differences show up. And I think for me, the question, a really natural follow-up question, because again, the adversity piece is real. I think for me is sometimes organizations see someone trying to deal with their personal matters as almost like an interference of their
Yeah.
job instead of understanding the human condition, that
Yeah.
if you support someone when they're going through a hard time, that more than likely, and there's plenty of empirical evidence out there that says when you support them and create that space of psychological
Mhm.
safety when things are
Mhm.
going, awry
Mm.
outside of the office, but yet it's going
Mm.
to impact us because we're human. Give people an understanding that when we say as leaders, oh yes, we have this thing called, FMLA, right, or family medical leave, when we are pushing them to make sure that we're just not doing it as a script, right?
Mm.
So people who are having trouble, oh, we're going to send them to the employee assistance and then family medical leave, and then that's it, right? So then when the person starts, leaning into those benefits, then there are questions. That person can't work here. That person can't do this. That person. It's
Mm.
almost like they
Mm.
they flip it from, we're going to support you. Here's your options, but if you
Yeah.
sit in those options too long, we get punished, right? We, the
True.
collective we.
True.
Right?
Yeah.
The person who's doing the work while you're not there, you, because you're worried about not doing your work, because
Yeah.
that's what you want to do. You want to be successful.
Something just
Of
came to mind
course.
here.
Of course.
And I want to speak directly to your audience.
Yes.
What leaders are getting wrong about resilience right now is that we have glorified endurance over alignment.
That's very true. That's brilliant intro.
We have created a burnout culture where it's okay, you overperforming. It's been described as, strength.
Right.
Overfunctioning, it's your good.
Right.
Productivity, addiction. There's so many things that we've put into being resilient that is not. And I just want to say here that burnout, it's often an identity problem that is masquerading as ambition.
Yeah.
Actually include boundaries,
Right.
recovery. Your resilience should include alignment. Your resilience should include emotional honesty with yourself, not just the world. And you need to
Right.
ask yourself this question: can I sustain this life?
Yes. Yes. So thank you. And I think that everything that we've talked about up to this point, then for
Yes.
me, the natural progression of wondering is I wonder how can organizations better support who are people who are navigating these invisible or visible battles? Because sometimes, they're invisible and
Yeah.
sometimes they're very visible and sometimes people can't help themselves. So what are your thoughts? How can organizations better support leaders who are really trying to navigate that? Like the balance of I want to support you, but I also understand that things need to get done.
Hmm.
Talk a little bit
Hmm.
about that, if you don't mind.
Okay. No, I don't. And the more we go in depth with this, the more it touches my heart that, we've lost our humanity, because we need
Mhm.
to create a culture where humanity is not punished. So people
Yes.
being human about who they are, about their identity, because there are so many leaders who are silently carrying griefs. They are
Mhm.
caregivers. They don't come out as
Yes.
some caregivers. There are
Yes.
so many leaders that are carrying burnout, illnesses, pressure, and so while still expected to perform at full capacity. So
Right.
when we are able to give a healthy organization to people by saying it's okay to be human, it's okay to tell us what you're going through. Because, for years, and I'm going to use this as in my culture, we didn't used to talk about your children having sickle cell.
Right.
It wasn't a
Yes.
conversation to have.
No, it was not.
And so I was expected to perform at full capacity without telling people my grief, my
Mhm.
pain,
Mhm.
that I'm caregiving, okay,
Mhm.
and that I'm burnt out. And in between that, I had my own illnesses, problem, and pressure that was ongoing. So here's the thing: a healthy organization is not one without pressure. It
Mhm.
is one where people who do not have to hide their humanity to survive. It's a place where we are okay to talk about what we're going through without having to be judged or looked down on. For years that I carried my own pain all by myself, there was no help anywhere. I didn't even know there was a caregiver association that I could go to until
Right.
I was happy to create one myself.
Yes.
And I
If
had to
it's
work
not
with the
there, build it
NHS. Yeah,
ourselves.
and so I'm like, okay, the families in my community don't come out and say, my children have got sickle cell. Are you going to help us come together so that people know that they are not alone, and so that top as a parent with special need
Yes.
kids is not lonely? So we
Mhm.
need to embrace humanity and not punish it. And I think that's
Mhm.
how organizations can actually support leaders.
There's nothing else to say other than yes, yes, and yes, because that's the part, right? I think we get so caught up in the goal. This is
Yes.
something I always talk about with clients, right? So clients that hire me to come in and do
Mm,
some infrastructure building or some strategic planning. One of the most important things, don't pay 100% to the outcome. And what do I
yeah.
mean by that? So, of course, the outcome is what we want to reach. But if we don't pay attention to the how, to get to that outcome,
Mm.
we're going to be in for a rude awakening if we're
Yes,
not
yes.
planning and we're not incorporating not only the things that we want to get to,
Mm,
but also incorporate here are some of the things that are common that might present themselves as barriers. And we got to discuss those too, even the things that are make us uncomfortable. And as a leader, I think for me, leaning into that discomfort, again, I said earlier, it's a gift.
mhm,
And I think for me, when we are talking about these pieces, when we are talking about the resiliency of pushing through, that don't pay attention only to the outcome, pay attention to the moving parts in the process, because this is where you're going to see the strength
mhm.
and the vulnerability.
Yes.
And also don't go to the vulnerability first. Use appreciative inquiry. Approach it in a way that let's look at our strengths to what you were saying earlier when we first started talking. Let's look at our strengths and why is it that we do this so well, right? Whatever the strength is, learn from it. So then when we find something that, needs some work, what better way than to learn on we do X really well, why we're not. So what lessons can we learn from X to approach Y, right? We don't do that often. I think we pay attention too much to the goal and getting it
And the
to
results.
your point and the results and then move on. And then, of course, the other part is the quality assurance of the sustainability of that goal. You reached it. Is that goal really reached or is that an ongoing goal as well? So I think for me, it's really important for organizations and leaders to be mindful that while we're focusing on the outcome, we have to make sure we're creating the space of psychological safety within our processes, because that will be a much better and more robust approach to problem solving than the hierarchy approach of I say and you do. Because that, unless you're in a certain kind of environment, like for me, military, right? You have your chief and you have everybody else. I understand how that goes there. But outside of that, corporate world or nonprofit world, it could be dangerous, dangerous for the organization, dangerous for the leader, dangerous for the communities they serve, and of course, the clients and the employees. For me, I really want or ask leaders to really sit with the discomfort and try to understand why. Like you want to rush past something. Maybe it was you had a similar incident before and that similar incident really left a stain on you and you never really dealt with it. So the next time something pops up, you don't deal with it. You just brush it under. And this is when the disconnect happens. This is when you lose really good people from your team as well.
Your life. Survey your life.
You have to.
Yeah. You have to survey your life. And I think one other thing I want to say to this part of this conversation is, as you were saying, it's something dropped in my heart, is there's something that I teach my friends, my team, my clients. When we do SWOT analysis, we talk about your strengths, then we overemphasize your weaknesses, and we say, go work on your weaknesses. There's a book called Soar with Your Strength. I can't remember the author.
Oh,
yeah. So with your strength, and he talked about how if you pay attention to your strengths and you increasing your strengths by 5%, do you know how amazing you will be, rather than focusing on the weaknesses that you have and spending all the years of your life trying to emerge from your weaknesses when you're not supposed to focus on it. And it's one of the things that I kind of hold on to, right? I'm going to focus on my strengths. I don't want to see your weaknesses. I don't care about your weaknesses. If you bring your strengths, I bring my strengths. Someone else bring their strengths. We are going to beat this drum in the proper reading. And we're not going to be competing with one another. Me trying to do what you do, and say, oh, I can be better than you. And that is something also in leadership that we have to say. Let people shine in their strength. Allow your team to shine in their strength. Allow your friends, your community to bring their strength to the table. And we will not be competing. We'll actually be creating a nation that can stand the test of time. I'm going to stop there.
I think for me, how can I put this? I'll put this in the best way possible. At least I'm going to try to.
Please.
I think for me, when the leader demonstrates vulnerability, right? You're giving permission without even saying it that others can too. When leaders create the space to the point we're talking about village creating, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Of course, we have our roles and people got to do them, right? Just do your role, right? So I think that for me, leaders, sometimes what they do is they end up wanting to create the space for individuals to come through, to show up, to be authentic, all the things that we want as leaders. It's not what you say, it's what you do. And if you are
I wish your audience can see me just screaming right now. Yes, yes.
But if you are a leader that doesn't allow permission to grow, and what I mean by that is holding each other up through saying, you know what, as a leader, I may know a little bit about A and B. C, I'm really good at. But A and B, I know enough, but I wouldn't consider myself an expert. But the true leader should say, then I need someone on my team to help them build themselves, help build me, because it's supposed to be a two-way street,
Of course.
not not top down.
Yeah.
But again, some
Not
people believe that's the
transactional.
right approach. No, it's
Relationship. Yeah.
transformational. It's
Yeah.
supposed to be transformational. But
Yeah.
you're right. Transaction, again, there's a time and place for that kind of style.
Mm-hmm.
But it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be the continuous style that leads
No.
you as
No.
in your organization. So I think for
Mm-hmm.
me, that's really important. And I think for
Thank you.
me, reflecting on it is so important. So the thing that I wonder sometimes is if one of the things that I want to ask you is around
Yeah.
your identity, right? So, like for me, what part
Back
of
to
your
us in the house.
identity?
Back to us in the
Yes, of
house.
course. Of course. Yeah. But your
Let's bring it
identity is
back
so
home.
important, right? Because that's what we're talking
Yeah.
about. We're talking about all these
Yes.
pieces. And, identity
Yes.
is complex. And I think sometimes when people just brush it off, it's for two reasons. They haven't had the opportunity to have real conversations
Yes. Yes.
to learn as opposed to conversations to react. So for me, what part of your identity, if you don't mind sharing,
I don't
today
mind sharing.
would not exist without your hardest experience?
Okay. I want to say that because of the way that I was wired as a young person, there was a system for my life. And so one of the things that would not have existed without all that I've been through is compassion. Seeing what other people are going through and asking myself, how can I be of service to this person? How can I make them see that they are not alone in their world? Being compassionate about what other people is going through rather than just brushing it aside. No, that would be
Right.
one. Also is discernment. The ability to look at things around me and go, Bukie, I know I'm crying, but I've got to see what's in this. What's this trying to teach me?
Yes.
The courage to be there for my children as a mom, for my community as a leader, the courage to keep going and not quit on my own vision. And one of the other things that I do that I love so much is advocacy. I've got something called Confidence Catalyst CIC, and it's designed for women who are going through the same thing that I've been through, and we kind of help them within the community to find their own unique identity, to build a business and a brand from it, and also clarity about what matters most to me will not be there. So I would want to say here that I will not be speaking the way I speak today without what I've survived. My pain did not create my value, but it revealed dimensions of me comfort will never have. I won't be on the cover of a magazine. I won't have written a book. I have another book coming out in October that I've already finished.
Yay!
Talking about compassion,
Yes.
I lost a friend to cancer last year. And I went back to the husband and I said, how can I be of service to this family? One of the things that my friend wanted to do was to reach 1 million people in the world. And so I said to him, I will help complete her book, And so I completed her book that she was working on. And that's my gift to that family. So I believe that my challenges brought me this far. And those are key areas of my life that would not have existed if I didn't go through what I went through.
Right. Yeah. I sometimes
know.
just gotta. It's heavy, but it's so
It
necessary.
is. It is.
So thank you for that. Because I think
Thank you.
sometimes we're like what we say, we want to rush to the next thing,
Yeah.
and we don't take the time to pause. We don't take the time to pause. We don't take enough time to celebrate the things that we accomplish because
Yes.
we're so busy moving on to the next thing that it's almost like a
And the
blur.
next thing, and the next thing.
And it becomes the checklist, right? Check, check, check,
Of
check, check, check.
course.
As opposed to when I finish this task, this is how I'm better for it. And it takes 2 seconds to think that.
Yeah.
It doesn't take a lot of time.
Right. So, Bukie, when somebody's telling you what they're going through, don't just rush to it and walk away. Pause, take it in, be compassionate, and hug them. So when I was asking those questions, they were like, what are you still, learning? I'm like, I wrote submission in the magazine, but it's more like learning to still hug people. Remember to hug them, Bukie. That compassion part of you. So you see, that part of me wouldn't have existed because I grew up in a regiment. Like, I grew up in a military school, if that makes sense. So all those army things you're talking about, that was my life, But then that compassion, Bukie, stop, pause, listen, hug someone. And sometimes all that somebody needs is not for us to fix their life. You just need somebody to hug them. So that part, I'm teaching myself daily.
Right. And to listen, right? Actively, not listen when you're thinking about the 10 things that you have to do after you finish listening to this person in front of you. And, I've done that early in my career because, again, trying to get it done.
Mm.
But what I
Try and
also
fix them.
learned in my
Mm.
right, but what I also learned in my career is that when I was doing that, the person felt like I wasn't present. And that taught me like now if you went to your boss and you tried to engage with them and they were listening but not understanding, how would you feel? So
Exactly.
I had to pivot and that's a great thing, it made me a
Yeah.
better person, a better leader. For someone currently in the corridor, what is the first step towards reclaiming agency? What would you tell them?
Here's the truth that many of us don't like to tell ourselves. When you are in that corridor, all you can see is yourself.
Correct.
All you can see is your challenges. All you can see in the corridor, it's your pain. All you can see is your grief,
Mhm.
the hardship that you're going through. All you can see is, I don't want to talk to anybody. My life is this, my life is, for some of us who go, my life is horrible. Why me, And if you're in the corridor and you're listening to me, I want you to know that you need to stop trying to become who you were before your challenges happened. Let me give you a women perspective of this.
Okay.
As we shift in age and your hormones are changing, you put on the
Mhm.
weight. For some of us, we have some clothes in our closet that's over 10 years ago, and we're
Mhm.
saying, I'm going to fit into it. That's what many of us do in the corridor of our identity. Can I go back to the old me?
Mhm.
Rather than saying, what can I create from here so that I can establish my own non negotiable? So,
Mhm.
why I wrote the book Non Negotiable? It's because rebuilding begins when you decide in that corridor what you're no longer going to compromise about your life, your health, your home, maybe your finances, your community. What are the things that are becoming non-negotiable to you? And so
Mhm.
sometimes the corridor is not where you end your life. Sometimes it's just a place to begin the next identity and embrace the you and say, you know what, I'm going to go into the closet and I'm going to just flush out all the clothes. I'm not going back to the old me. I'm welcoming this new me. So
Mhm.
if you're in your corridor of life, yours might not be the hospital like mine and your life was on life support or your identity was
Mhm.
on life support.
Mhm.
Your corridor could be you just sitting at your office right now and your bank account doesn't fit. Your
Yes.
corridor might be you're just there and they just let go of you in your job. Your
Mhm.
corridor might just be life is hard. I want you to open your eyes and see, who am I? What do I need to let go? What am I going to make non negotiable? So that
Mhm.
when I rise from here, I'm not going backwards. I'm embracing this new identity. And I'm stepping out. You know that song that say, look out for here I come.
Oh,
I'm
yes, yes.
marching up to the beat I drum.
Yes,
I
yes,
am
yes.
brave, I am strong, I am who I'm meant to be. This is me. And that's
Mhm.
exactly what I did at that corridor. And I'm giving you the same blueprint today. I'm giving you that life support that you need. It doesn't have to end here. Get up from your corridor once you've answered those questions and then calmly welcome the new identity and step into it and never look back. That's what I want to say.
I am picking up what you're putting down, and I'm sure the listeners out
Yes.
there are doing the same. I think it's
Yes.
been really interesting to unpack the topic that we talked about today, right? And I think that for me, one of the things that I enjoy, again, meeting people, talking with people, and just engaging in a really healthy way, just back and forth, ask questions. I think for me, I always ask each of my guests that if I give you a magic wand, I'm gonna say,
Mm.
Bukie, here's a magic wand. And I would like for you to come up with a call to action for the person or persons out there listening. What would a call to action be?
Thank you so much. It has
Mhm.
been, even though I've been smiling, it's been an emotional process. But here's what I'm gonna say to the
Mhm.
people who could give the magic wand to, that if this conversation resonates with you in any way, then perhaps maybe it's time for you to stop asking, how do I survive my next season? And
Right.
start asking, who am I becoming through it? And this is where the work behind either my book comes in, which is the non-negotiable,
Mhm.
or the I Rise framework that we talked about that I now teach. So You can use any of those to help you. Funny enough, the way my book is done, you don't have to meet me. You don't have to tell
Right.
me your problem. You can
Right.
sit down after every chapter and answer the questions. But in the corridor of life, sit down and answer your questions. And those questions are personal to you. So my call to action today will be, don't sit in that corridor. Go do something about your life. Find what you need out there that would help you. And I know I said at the beginning of this that there are so many things that people can get, and if you're looking for it, but be intentional about what you want and just go for it. So that would be my call to action. Be intentional and go find the help that you need.
I really appreciate that. I think for me, because we've talked about some really interesting points for, at least I think, hopefully they think as well.
Yes, we have.
So if a person out there is listening and says, wow, you know what, Bukie talked about the corridor, Bukie talked about, her book, Bukie talked about I Rise. If someone out there wants to get in contact with you, what is the best way for them to find you, follow you, connect with you? If you don't mind helping the audience understand, where do we find you?
Okay, so Jared found me on LinkedIn.
Yes. Isn't that the best? I love it.
Find me either on LinkedIn or Instagram. I'm very much active actually on Instagram more than I am active on LinkedIn. So if you send me a message on Instagram, I would respond. So
and what is your handle
Bukie,
on Instagram? Boom,
Bukie Signature.
Okay.
Bukie
Nice.
and Signature. So as you sign your document, so if you remember Bukie and then Signature, and funny enough, if you put my name on Google, you will find me everywhere.
Yes. Well, it's not a common name, so there probably aren't many Bukies out there. There could be some people with the name. Some of them are nicknames, some of them are formal names. But I think it's really cool that when you have a unique name, that it stands out for all the right reasons. So congratulations
Once you start
on
putting
that.
Bukie, ADE, Google will like, I know that woman.
That's awesome.
You will find a magazine cover, something about me, something written about you will find me. But the best way to find me will be Instagram or LinkedIn.
Instagram or LinkedIn. Okay, great. So I want to extend my gratitude, my sincere and deepest gratitude for just saying yes to even connect. Because I think for me, we met through LinkedIn, but sometimes when I want to meet people, some people are just overguarded and don't allow the opportunity to connect. Right. And I just want to say thank you for just accepting the invite to just engage, because we engaged before, me saying, hey, let's talk. Do you want to talk? And then before we set up a time to talk and before we kind of shared a little bit about, and then here we are. So I want to say thank you so much for just coming on and just sharing with the world. What is Bukie about? I think that there are a lot of carrots that you have shared. I think I'm looking forward to seeing your continued growth, because that's going to happen. And for that, I say gracias, or thank you, or merci. That's as good as I get right there.
Thank you so much for reaching out. Thank you for giving me the opportunity. Thank you for, even for those that are listening to us, thank you for allowing us to come into your home, your car, your phone, wherever you're listening to us, right? Or just on social media. But here's the thing. When we stay open for opportunity, it will find us, even while we're crying through our tears. So I want to say thank you for bringing me on here. Thank you for allowing me to share my story. I can't wait to see where you go either. And I'm celebrating and rooting for you all the way. Thank you so much. And to our listeners, you are so blessed. And if you're standing in the corridor, that's not the end. Just keep going. So thank you so much. Thank you.
Amen. And for listeners out there, please do us a favor, hit like, comment, let's engage. Because for me, the whole intent of Conversation Café is to provide details that maybe you can't get somewhere else. And it's just people telling their authentic stories about who they are, what they're about, and in their expertise. To me, it's about celebrating differences. So please continue to follow us. We have other episodes coming out in a few weeks. If you hit follow, you'll be informed when they drop. I look forward to you, the audience members, continuing your support. And if you think of any topics that you feel could be worth diving into, shoot us an email, shoot us a note to let us know, and we'd be more than glad to. Or even if you yourself feel like, hey, I want my voice heard, reach out to us. You can find me on LinkedIn, you can find me on Instagram, you can find me on Facebook and Spotify. And that's where I am Dr. Gauthier-Zayas. Avant Consulting and Training is the company, and I am the founder and host of Conversation Café. So please join us. Let's talk about comunidad. Let's talk about community, and let's continue building. Until the next episode, everyone. Adios, take care, and cuídate.